Hello world and welcome back. We're going to be doing a 60-second overview of the Hack the Box MetaTwo machine before we jump into the details. So we start off obviously with enumeration as step one. We jump into a little web enumeration where we find a subdomain metapress.htb. We do some WordPress enumeration. I use WP Scan, didn't help me at all. I did learn about a WordPress plugin called BookingPress, and a little research shows there is indeed a CVE. With this, we're able to test the CVE and then pivot into SQL map to really expand on that vulnerability, where we are able to attack the database, get some credentials, crack those credentials, and this provides authentication with the WordPress admin page. From here, we find another WordPress CVE while we do some internal enumeration, and we find a server-side template injection, which we ultimately exploit for credentials that allows us to connect to the FTP service where we find credentials to connect to the targeted user. All right, from here, we do some internal enumeration, learn about the passpy, which is a Python password manager. We are able to extract the key, which is in a hash. We format it for John, crack it, get the root password, log into the server as root. Let's get into it. Jumping right into things here, we're going to start off as usual with an Nmap scan, and then we're going to do a more in-depth Nmap scan here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what our attack surface looks like and what services are running. All right, so we can see that we have three ports open: FTP, SSH, and HTTP. Well, we know that SSH is just probably going to be to connect back into the box like in most machines. And in this machine, that was indeed the case. We have our FTP server, which I initially enumerated, and I didn't find anything. I couldn't get in there. I couldn't extract any information. So that leaves us with port 80, HTTP. But before we look at the website, let's quickly do a more in-depth Nmap scan with TAC-SC, TAC-SV for enumerate versions and use default scripts. Taking a look at our more in-depth Nmap scan results, we can see a couple things here, including, of course, our host name, which is MetaPress, and there is indeed a http robots.txt file with a disallowed entry. There's WP admin, so we can obviously try and log in there. Nothing special to do with cookie flags. We do see that we're running WordPress 5.6.2, which is obviously great. This is going to be for later in the engagement. We're not going to be pursuing this version initially. We're actually going to be looking for a plugin, which I actually couldn't find even with using WP Scan, which I'm going to go ahead and skip in this video. And we're just going to jump right into the website, and I'm going to show you how I found the plugin being used. So we're over here on the metapress.htb website, and you can see that right in the middle of the page, it says HTB events. Fantastic. So let's take a look over at this. And what you'll notice is we kind of have this events page here. And despite running WP Scan and checking like the contents directory where you can typically find WordPress plugins, WP Scan did not work for me. If it worked for you, please comment down below. Let me know what I did wrong. But if we view the source code of the page here, we will actually find, we'd have to look through here, but we will find BookingPress right here. You can see ID BookingPress, and I'm just grepping through the page because I've obviously done the machine. I know what to look for. We can see again right here, WP content /plugin/BookingPress appointment. This is great. And over here, it looks like it's version 1.0. So let's go ahead and take a look at what CVEs are available for WordPress plugin BookingPress version 1. All right, so here I am on the WPScan.com site, and I've gone over to vulnerabilities, plugins, and I have found by searching BookingPress our vulnerability for version 1.0, which is exactly what we're using. So let's take a look at this vulnerability here. And it reads that, in summary, you can read it. I'm not going to read this word for word, but it's a user input sanitization issue. So it's going to be an issue with parsing on the back end through a post request. And what's neat is here we actually have the payload, which is awesome. And this is run from the curl. From curl. So we can test it out before we have to get too complicated. But what's interesting here is there's a couple steps that we should take, but we can actually skip some of them. So we have 4 steps here. So we don't need to create a new category. We do not need to create a new page with a BookingPress form. We do need to do the last 2, which is to visit the page and extract the nonce, which is a randomly generated number to help with session ID and object management. And then we invoke the following curl command. So let's go ahead and do that. If we jump over to the events page here, or the source page, we'll use Control F and we'll find our nonce. And you can see WP nonce, it's right here. So let's go ahead and copy this little nonce or token. And then you can see we have our payload here, and we're going to use this payload here. So just a quick look at it is it's a curl, and it's going to be going to the URL, obviously our website, and this subdirectory WP admin, admin.ajax.php. And then it's passing the data, and this is where we get our action. And these are legitimate queries with our token or our WP nonce. And the ID variable here, or sorry, the total service is what's actually injectable and vulnerable here. So after this is our initial payload that'll help us test if this is right. And once we prove that this vulnerability works, we'll escalate to using SQL map to take advantage of it. So let's go ahead and customize this payload with our website and our nonce token. All right, so I've changed the payload a bit, just in Word, in Notepad. I'm hoping it'll work. We're gonna run it here. And it said fail to connect, connection refused. I think it's because we're running HTTPS and we need to run HTTP. So let's try it with just HTTP. Perfect, you can see it works. We actually get a 200 OK response from the server. And down here we see leaked information. So we see that there is a Mariah database system here and OS information to bind 11 and some other information to do with pricing and service duration, so on and so forth. All right, this is great. Well, how do we expand upon this? So what we're going to do is we're going to send this to Burp Suite, where we're going to catch the request, modify the payload a bit, and then send it over to SQL map to find the injectable parameter and dump some credentials. So let's go ahead and fire up Burp Suite to get started. So we have Burp Suite open here, and we can see that it is listening on the local host at port 8080. Intercept is turned on. So the way to get our request over to Burp Suite from the command line is quite simple. We are, I believe, just going to do TAC-X, our local host, which will be 127.0.0.1 over port 8080, I think, is how it works. Nope, that didn't work. Let's try it again here. I just wonder if I was not supposed to do the semicolons. It said fail to connect. All right, let me try something else. I think I have to do a lowercase x. So let's go back, add the semicolon for the port, lowercase x. There we go. So here you can see we have our intercepted curl request. And this is great. However, everything past this portion here was the pre-configured payload that allow for us to get the version compile OS. So we actually want to delete this. And the other side of this is this service variable here. We are going to clear this and just make it nothing. And what we'll do now is actually save this, put it in SQL map, and start the SQL injection process from scratch. So the way to do this is not to save the item. Don't do that. I did that and I wasted a lot of time trying to figure it out. You actually want to click copy to file. And that's going to kind of be the way to do it here. So we're going to jump into MetaTwo and just call this request. And we're going to save it. Wonderful. So what we'll do now is we will create a new tab and just use SQL map and see what happens. So let's jump over into our directory. And if we do ls, we'll see our request. So we'll go SQL map and -i for request. And that's just it. Let's just wait to see what happens. So it says our SQL map is outdated. Okay, we're going to need to use some more commands here. We aren't going to be able to have it or keep it that simple in a sense. So let's go ahead and, oh, you know what? I made a mistake sorry, I was supposed to do R for request. So very basic command here. So you can see here, it says, hey, look, we found a injection point from a stored session because of course I've already done this machine. And the injectable point is of course the total service right here, parameter. Total service. And this is what's injectable. So what we're going to do here is we know what we're going after. So let's go ahead and specify the database system, which is MySQL, which we can see right here, database management system, MySQL. And it's going to go ahead and say, hey, great news. You have two databases available, blog and schema. So what we're going to do now is we will do, we need to specify the database management system, which I think it already knows now because it's a save session. So I think we can just go D for dump blog, tables. This might not work. I think that's it. There we go. Okay. So these are all the tables that are available. Well, we want to look for one in particular, and that is, of course, going to be the WP users. I did go through all these, and it did take quite some time, which was a little much, but we're again just going to do T for table, specify WP underscore users, and then I think it's dash dash dump, or it might be just one for dump. Let's see here. I'm going to use all the defaults. Oh, I see. So I think it found it, but we don't actually want to crack it with MySQL. So let me rerun this command here and read the pop-ups. And it says, do you want to store the hashes in a file? No, we'll skip that for now. Do you want to check them? Dictionary attack? No, thanks. So here you go. Here we have our password hashes. So that's fantastic. And the user manager is what we're going to go after. And this hash here. So the way we're going to do that is we're just going to copy this password. And we're going to put this into a file. We'll just call it nanohash.txt. We'll pop it in here. And then from here, we're going to just use John the Ripper. So the way we'll do that is going to be John tac w equals, or for word list equals user share. And we're going to use the most popular one here. It's going to be the rocku.text. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to type and talk at the same time. Share word list. So let's go to rocku.text and on our hash file. And it's going to run here, and it says it loaded one password hash. I've obviously already done this machine. So I'm not, it just doesn't seem to actually show me what the what the password is. So a couple options here. We could actually run the Johnny, which is the GUI version of John the Ripper, or we could run hashcat. So let's go ahead and just try Johnny here. Again, I'm not, looks like I don't think it's going to work. So let's just go ahead and use hashcat. But let me just try John the Ripper again. This should work. I've done this before. All right, I'm just trying this one more time. I put both password hashes in the file because maybe I actually got the wrong one. So let's see if this doesn't work. We're going to jump over to hashcat and crack this hash. Okay, John is still not working. So I'm going to go ahead and call hashcat, which I believe is on the system by default as always. And I'm going to do hashcat-m. I think it's 400 -a0, I hope. I hope this works. This is just kind of the default. I don't even really remember what the parameters are. I just always use it. I think it's M is the identity type. So 400 is for the hash. And then I think A is word list brute force. I don't think we need the 0. Let me actually get rid of that. Actually, you know what? Let me just run hashcat by itself. I'm curious. I think it'll actually just sort everything out. I just remember always doing A or M 400. I think 400 might be MD5 and then A0. Okay, so we'll go wordless / rocku.text. And let's see. All right, so it's going to run here. It's going to do auto detection mode, and we'll just give it. So it looks like, yes, it's mode 400. So no, that's PHP pass. Right. It's PHP pass because we figured that out earlier when we ran John the Ripper. It says right here, 2 different salts, PHP pass, salted hash. So it's identified that. So let's actually speed this up and just call PHP pass and go -m 400. And then I think A0 for wordless type, and then we'll just give it a minute here to run. All right, I was just looking online and I totally forgot that once you actually crack a password with John the Ripper, to see it, you have to do tac show hash. So you can see here, it is party like a rock star. So let's go ahead and log in now and authenticate to the WordPress admin page as user manager with password party like a rock star. So we're at the login page here. We're going to do manager and party like a rock star. All right, there you go. So we are in here. This is fantastic. So now we're going to want to do a little enumeration and figure out which version of WordPress we're running. The way to do this, if I recall, is to view the page source And I think what we're just going to look for here is version. Oh yeah, I can already see it right here. So you see here, MetaPress, WP admin, load scripts, blah, 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 version 5.62. So we're going to jump over to WP scan here. And we're going to go vulnerabilities, WordPress, and we're going to look through here until we find version 5. I think it's the authenticated XSS block editor that we are looking for. That's kind of a wide gap though. Let me take a quick peek if there's anything more now. Oh yes, this is the one here that I used. It's the authenticated external entity within the media library. Cool. So let's take a look at it here. And we can see that the user needs the ability to upload a file. And if so, we can exploit the XML parsing in the media library. So WordPress in this version uses an audio parsing library called ID3, and it's affected by the XXE vulnerability affecting PHP. All right, so the way to trigger is with a WAV audio file. And it looks like here what's happening is we have our entity, and here's where we're going to put our kind of malicious payload. But we have to do a callback to our server and call an, of course, external entity, which in this case is a .dtd file. So we're going to host that, put some malicious code in it, and that DTD file is right down here. So our malicious code is actually going to go here. And what we're going to do with it is just remote code execution. We could get a reverse shell, but in this case, what we're going to do is instead look at a WP config file where we'll actually find a password. So let's go ahead and get our files ready. So here's what our initial payload.wav file will look like. Now this is what our DTD file is going to look like. However, I don't think this is going to work. I actually had to remove the zlib deflate command. And I think I had to modify this entity here and have to change data to file. But let's just go ahead and try it anyways, because that's what the instructions on the WP scan site say to do. So on the left, I have the WordPress website, which we're authenticated to with elevated privileges. And on the right, I have my listening reverse shell. Let me just change this tab name to listener so we don't get confused. And I actually learned about using a PHP server, which was pretty cool because it actually has syntax highlighting when the catch comes in. So let's go ahead and jump over to media. And we'll go add new item, select file, and we will call the payload.wav. And let's see if I get the same issue here. No. So we did upload it, but it didn't work. Okay, so this is odd. When I initially did this, I got this like security error, like, oh, we can't use this file. And I think what the issue was is, I think what's going on here is it's not generating properly because I have to actually do an echo command for it to do markdown on the characters. So if I jump over to Hack the Box, and I remember struggling with this for a couple of days. Yeah, okay, so we're looking at the payload.wav file here. And part of the issue is going to be that we have to use the echo command to get it to actually appear properly. Because right now it's not, like, it has all these weird characters at the top here, and these aren't really showing properly, if I understand. All right, so we're just gonna take a look at exploit DB here because I had to look around again. This took me several days to get sorted. Okay, so I think this is what I used here. So we have to actually do the proper echo command here. Now this whole thing is scripted, so they have the variables here, but I'm going to copy and paste it here and just put my IP address in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So hopefully this works here. I am pasting the command with echo, and it looks like we have a doc type issue. So that's quite unfortunate as well. So again, this payload is also not working, and it's saying event not found, which makes me feel like I don't know, like it's an event. Like, do we have to clear the exclamation mark maybe? All right, so I cleared the exclamation marks and it seemed to work. I don't know if this is actually going to work, but let's just go ahead and try it anyway. So now I'm going to create the DTD file. From here, we currently have our listener. It's still listening. Let's go ahead and take a shot in the dark here. And if this doesn't work, then we'll jump over to try hack me, which I think is what I ended up using in the end to get working payloads, and I still have to play around with them. So we'll try payload.wav, and it didn't work. So let's go ahead and jump over and try the try hack me payloads. So we can see here in try hack me that it has All right, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to literally copy this command here, and I think this will make it happen. And there's differences. Like they've added all these extra quotes here, which we didn't have on the WP scan or the exploit DB website. So it makes me think it's just some type of like standard in out error. Not really sure, but let's give it a shot here. So I'm pasting the command here. Oh, whoops. I guess we don't want the nano part at the top there. We can probably get rid of that. There we go. So we'll run this unless it actually made, it did make the payload.wave. Oh, it did work. Okay. So there's our payload there. And to see if this is actually working before we make the DTD file, let's just try and upload it. If it is, we should see a callback. There it is. So it made a callback and it said, hey, we can't find evil.dtd or name evil. No problem. So thank you, TryHackMe. Let's go ahead and copy their DTD file. We don't want to play around anymore. I just don't really understand why like the quotes made the difference they did. I'd love to, if you know, please comment down below. But we'll go nano name evil dot DTD, which I think they actually intend for you to use name evil as your own name, but whatever, we're just going to do this. And there you go. We can see have it. Something else that's different is you can see it's calling a file instead of data. So for our port, we'll do port 8000. And we'll put our server IP address in here, which will be 10.10.14.90. And it is going to be trying to read, I think we're going to end up changing this to, oh yeah, Etsy password. Okay, let's give this a shot here, but I think we'll still have to do one modification, but let's just give it a shot and see what happens. So we'll go payload.wav, wave, it uploads. Okay, so now we have this base 64. Here's where things are going to get interesting though. If we actually copy this, I don't know if this will work. So we'll copy this information and let's paste it in CyberChef. And you can see here the base 64 information that we're getting reflected back from the server isn't working. Well, I don't know why it's me, but other people I don't think had this issue, but here's how I fixed it. And I'd love to know if I did something wrong along the way. But what I did was I noticed, hey, you know, this something's wrong with this output. So I went and took a look at this command and I thought, why do we have zlib deflate here? So I deleted this. We definitely need our filter though, the conversion of base 64. And now if we do this all again, it should work. So let's go ahead and upload our file, payload.wave. You can see the catch, the base 64. Let me go ahead and copy it and we can tell it's already different. So this should work. No promises. We'll copy this, jump over to CyberChef, pop it in here. There you go. We have Etsy password. So it's working now. And we're actually able to get that remote code execution on the server and get the information back. And remember, this took me like days and days to figure out. I had to look on the forums, ask for help, and it was quite the process, of course. So where we're going to find our final file is going to be in the blog WP config section. So what we'll do is we'll just edit our payload file. Or sorry, our name evil file. And we're going to say, all right, instead of looking for Etsy password, go ahead and show me. It's blog wp config.php. And this was kind of a guessing game for me. I just had to keep guessing, you know, where to look. But I had a feeling it might be WP config because the other payload was WP config. But then when I just asked for help and said, hey guys, I have no idea where to go, they said, you're on the right track, but try that WP config file in other places. And oh, okay. So a day later or two, however long it was, I eventually got it. But let's go ahead and upload this file again. Now that we've modified it. I think I did it right. We'll see. I think we have to actually rerun our server every time. So let me add, let's go add new and upload our payload.wave file. Didn't work. Let me try it again. I'm gonna take a guess. I have to maybe call the host name first. Let's go blog. I think it's, yeah, blog wp-config.php. So let's just do metapress. And if this isn't it, then back to the drawing board, I guess. Metapress.h. Okay, perfect. So let's upload this now. And hopefully it works. Oh, I have to rerun my server. So select file. Let's upload payload.wave. and I didn't seem to work. Okay, let's call the root directory here. Oh boy, hope this works. So I think var dub metapress.http.blog/wp-config.php. I think it is, I hope. Let me rerun our PHP server. Should work. Okay, this looks good. This looks good. Let's go ahead now and copy this. Yeah, this is different output. I think this is it. And I think this is where we find the password. Come on. Yes, perfect. Okay, so you can see in here, we actually have our password. So there's a MySQL password and there's a second one down here. And this is what we're going to use to access the FTP server is metapress.htb and that password here. So let's go ahead and connect to the FTP server. And we'll just do this with the command FTP, super simple, and the IP address. And it should prompt me for the information. It just says connected. So I don't know, maybe needs time. All right, there we go. So it did prompt us for the name. That took a while, which was kind of confusing. Well, we know it's going to be metapress.htb, metapress.8, that's easy to type. The password, however, I'm just going to quickly copy here because that is a hassle to remember or type out even. And I think we're in. Perfect, we're in. All right, so we're going to look around in here. And the first thing we're going to notice, first we want to call help to see what's available to us. Great, but let's just look around. So we have a thing called mailer. Let's just go right in there. We're in the mailer directory and there's something called send_email PHP. Well, I don't think we can't exactly use cat here, right? Like cat isn't a command, it's gonna say invalid command. So I think what we do is mget send_email.php. I have no idea what that prompt is. Did this work? Let's see. Okay, there's the send mail file. And I think in here is where the credentials are. Yeah, so this is how we're going to connect to the machine as user from the SSH shell. So let us do that. I'm going to create a new window here. I'm going to close some of the background noise because it's a whole lot of business going on. Close Burp Suite. Definitely don't need that anymore. I'm going to zoom in and make this screen a little bigger. And we're going to go ahead and see if these credentials work. I think they will. So SSH as user J Nelson. I don't know if we have to specify the domain name or not. I'm not sure. J Nelson at target 129.20.64. Hopefully it prompts for password. Host key verification failed. Okay, let me try doing the domain name. Metapress.htb. Perfect. Okay, let's copy this convoluted password. And then we should be in. Perfect. So you can see here that user.txt. Now, the way to escalate to root in this is actually, it took me a while because I used Limpies and spent a whole bunch of time trying all these different recommendations. And that's usually how Limpies works. It does all these recommendations. You try them all, you maybe narrow it down. And sometimes Limpies doesn't help you at all. I might have missed something, but it didn't help me. I noticed that when I did tac list all, there was this thing called PassPy, which if you look it up, it is indeed a Python password manager. So if you jump in here and you learn how it works, it has the password here. So root password is what we want. However, we can't get at root password because it's hash. So if we go cat root password, it's this big old line of characters here. However, what we do notice is that in PassPy, when we do list all, there are this directory called .keys. Or sorry, it's a file called .keys. And if we take a peek, it's got a whole lot of information. So we're going to take those keys and we're going to crack them. So we'll do exactly that. Let me just output this again with the terminal being a little bigger so it's not weird. Okay, and we want the private key. So let's copy this. And I will just go, I guess I'll go back to our original terminal. And in MetaTwo, we'll go nano, I'll just call it key. We'll paste it in there and something's not right here. We are missing is the header at the top? Yes, so let's kill the white space, jump back down to the bottom, make sure we have the tail end of the file. So I'll just copy this. Put the did something weird there. I don't know what happened. Okay, I have the file here. Perfect. We'll save this. Now what we're going to do is we could try running John the Ripper on it, which I guess we'll just do anyway. So let's go John dash word list. Yes, basically. We'll use rocky.text, and I think what'll happen is you see it doesn't autocomplete because it doesn't detect. Hang on here. Something is very odd. Okay, let me just go word list equals and then call the key file. Now, I don't actually think this will work because I don't think John recognizes the file type because it's PGP. And I let this run for a while and I got no results. What we'll do here is instead of waiting on this pretty good privacy key to crack, is there's a command we can use called gpg to John to kind of convert this. So we go gpg to John on the key file. And it says can't find. Okay, let's just go output. Is it even going to work? I don't think it's going to work. So that's kind of odd, actually. Oh, the formatting's all broken. So that's not ideal. Let me just recreate this file. All right, let me delete. I think there's a white space at the end. Not sure. Let's try it again here. All right, that's odd. Okay, so I eventually got it working. I don't know what happened. I just went through the process again. GPG to John worked. So pretty confused here, but we're just going to run this now on the command. And right, we have to do show pass. So show. Oh, wait, hang on, John. We'll go John, output, tac show. So you can see there, the password is blink182. And I think this was indeed our root password. Let's just give it a shot here. passpy blink182. So now what we'll do is since we have this passphrase, actually, I think what we do is we just switch users. I think we just go su tac and it says password, and that's going to be blink182. Please work. It said authentication failure, which is, oh, wait a sec. We have to extract the password. Silly me, because we have our password, but we need to pull, right. Okay. So the way to do this is going to be on the target machine under the passpy directory. We call passpy. This took me like forever to figure out, by the way. It was really frustrating. We go copy ssh -2 std out. And then I believe we get the right prompt for blink182. There we go. So now we can go switch user root. And again, I think I was on Stack Overflow. I just saw I was just playing around and realized, hey, this is how we get the password. So we're root. So there you go. Anyways, I actually found this box really difficult. It took me a while to do. There was just weird things like this. Like in the documentation, I just had a hard time, figuring out what exactly to do, for example. But all in all, I really liked it. I learned some new stuff and looking forward to the next machine. Thanks for tuning in. See everyone in the next video.